And we're live with Inspired Woman TV on Saturday Night Live with Ruth Stuettgen and Andrea Donaldson from Australia. So welcome everybody. We are a little bit later than normal. I did say 8 o'clock, but c'est la vie, that's live. Is that the translation?
Yeah, that's life. Yeah, that is the life. Literally, that's what it is.
We had a bit of technological issues, so we finally figured that one out. I couldn't get onto Zoom, had no internet, etc. So here we are. Welcome. And Inspired Woman TV is all about inspiring, uplifting, and providing hope for women and girls across the world. So tonight, in the lead up to International Women's Day, where the theme is Choose to Challenge, Andrea and I want to bring you some discussion around women in leadership. That's what International Women's Day is all about. So before I give Andrea the floor as well, I just want to give you a brief history on International Women's Day. It's been around for around a century now. So since 1911, it's been an active annual event where women and girls, or mainly women, but also girls, are celebrated for their achievements in the world, in society. And it's been occurring for well over that century. And I can tell you a little bit about it. So the colors, if you haven't looked at it before, if you haven't looked into it before, the colors are purple, green, and white. So purple symbolizes justice and dignity, and the green signifies hope, and the white signifies purity. So that's always a little bit of a controversial topic, but it's that's what it signifies. So it represents purity. And the colors originated from the Women's Social and Political Union in the UK in 1908. So that's how long it's been around. So I like that they've gone to that extent where they've given colors that actually symbolizes hope, unity, and dignity as well, justice, and the purity. So International Women's Day every year has a different topic, and this year it's Choose to Challenge, and it's all about, there's always a strength or a sideline of gender parity, where there should be an equal representation of women and men in everything in the world, everything that we do, which I think is only fair. I think there seem to be more women. I don't have the figures in front of me right now, but I think there are more women around than men. Is that right, Andy?
Yeah, I think I read 52-48 percent, because women live longer on the whole.
Yeah.
So we.
Well, I think it's
got better staying power.
Yes, I think it's only really fair that we are represented equally, and if you look into it, it hasn't been the case. So and there's a lot of work that goes into that to bring that up to, maybe not 50-50, but at least that it's quite equal, because we do tend to put in the work, and we do work as much, and we are equally qualified. However, historically, it's shown that women aren't paid the same.
No, often for doing the same work too.
Yeah, exactly. And the representation of women in high-powered jobs or high-powered career opportunities are much lower as well. So I just want to read you a quote from Gloria Steinem. She's a world-renowned feminist and a journalist and activist. She once explained that the story of women's struggle for equality belongs to no single feminist, nor to any one organization, but to the collective efforts of all who care about human rights. So we owe it to ourselves and to our children that follow us to make International Women's Day our day and your day, and do what we can, or each of us can, to truly make a positive difference in women. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Andrea now, and we just have a bit of a back and forth about what's coming up, and then at the end we're going to give you some really exciting news of what we're planning about it. Okay.
Okay, so we were thinking about the theme of women in leadership, and I think the last time I was on Saturday Night Live, I talked a little bit about my journaling group that I run on Facebook, and I put a question up only a few days ago, and the question that I asked was, what do you think are the traits of a good leader? And just some absolute gold came back from the members of that group, who I must say are probably 98% women in that group. I'm not sure what that says about, the art of journaling, whether even just the name of that group is only appealing to women, but anyway. And so I thought it might be good to unpack a few of the traits that were discussed in that group, and back and forth a bit between you and I, Ruth, as to how some of this sits with us. I guess before I say what people have said, to my mind, whenever we talk about women in leadership, we start with leading ourselves. It's not just leading others, but in fact leading ourselves to begin with. And in fact, one person wrote just that in their reply on this group. They just said leading by example, that the traits of a good leader is a leader who leads by example. So not what I say, but actually what I do.
I do, yeah. That's so true, isn't it? I mean, it happens in every aspect in our lives, and it starts at home. The kids watch us, the children watch us, and that's how they learn everything, right? Before they go out into school or kindergarten, they watch us, and it's not necessarily what we say, it's what we actually do, and it's incredible what sticks then to them.
And sometimes it is what we say. A girlfriend who told a story. She was driving in traffic one time, and it was really busy, and she had her, I think, 4-year-old in the back in his car seat, and they pulled up and they were there for a little while, and all of a sudden he's saying, move, move, move. And she thought, oh, that could be me. That could be, my behaviour at times when I'm stuck in traffic and I've got a time pressure, and I'm feeling like, come on, traffic, move, move, move. So, yeah, our kids do watch, but so do the people that we lead in business and in church life, in wherever there's a group of people, if we're, and we don't actually have to be a leader with a title. One of my favourite authors that I love to read his thought process is Robin Sharma, and he's written a book called The Leader Without a Title, that sometimes within organisations people are promoted, they have a title, they're in a managerial position, but it doesn't make them a leader. And as the people in that group wrote down some of the traits they see as making a good leader, sometimes that'll be you're leading even though you don't have a title. You're not in a particular role, but you are still there to inspire and encourage others. And that's how you show your leadership, sometimes in spite of the people who are in managerial roles.
Sometimes the ones that are in those roles aren't necessarily don't necessarily portray good leadership qualities, right?
No. So the first answer that came was integrity. So, we tend to think of integrity as being the same thing as honesty, but when a building has integrity, it's actually got strength. It's the integrity of the foundation of that building that allows it to stand against wind, rain, hail, storm, anything that could buffet a building and send it over. And that's what integrity is. So the engineers who are listening would understand what integrity is, and it is an engineering term. So yes, honesty was another trait, But then somebody made a really interesting comment, and I think this sort of it's kind of the flip side of honesty, and it's not lying, but it's actually holding your own work issues as a leader to yourself, or going to someone above you if you've got issues, rather than dumping it on people that you're leading. So what are your thoughts about that, Ruth?
Can you say that again?
So the idea of, we talk about honesty, but honesty isn't just dumping on people. It's actually knowing the strengths and the weaknesses of your team, and knowing what's appropriate to share with them and what's not, and what will be encouraging versus destroying for people. So the idea was that the leader holds their own work issues, and particularly if it's an issue with conflict or something that needs to be resolved, to themselves, or takes it to someone above them, rather than dumping it,
sharing it on
the people that they're leading.
Yeah. Sometimes you're right. You shouldn't be sharing everything or whatever challenges you are going through with everyone, because not everyone is on the same level as you. But they don't necessarily have to be on the same level, because sometimes your team has their own strengths and weaknesses. So sometimes, even though they are not in a leadership role, they can still brainstorm ways of how to approach a certain challenge. And I think when you are vulnerable as well, they see you as a human being first off as well. When you don't have to share every single challenge that you have on that leadership level, but you can, in my opinion anyway, to maybe just put forth a certain challenge that maybe the organization is having, and what kind of a challenge you have in bringing that challenge to fruition or to solve it. And if everyone is asked to perhaps put down their thoughts, or to put forward their thoughts of how things could work, then that may lead to looking at different things in a different perspective.
I totally agree. And I think, Brene Brown does a lot of work on the whole issue of vulnerability and what that actually brings to particularly leadership and team play. And I think it's that tension, isn't it, between being humble and vulnerable and brutally honest, and honest to a fault, that there are some things that you actually need to lead yourself and hold to yourself and sort out, because you could blurt it out today, have solved it tomorrow, and you've devastated someone in your team who's still trying to work it through.
Not everyone is going to be able to be good at problem solving, and then, as you said, they would become devastated if it's something that they can't deal with, and you've already solved. And that happens a lot in big organizations, doesn't it? Or even on a bigger scale, even government level, where they don't necessarily bring everything to everybody, because you can't possibly share it with everybody.
No.
Especially if there are so many different personalities.
And I think that's the point too, that sometimes it's your issue. Perhaps it's a conflict issue with somebody further up in management, in leadership, that you need to take ownership of and deal with that person, rather than muddying the water for everyone, and suddenly people are going, well, I don't have an issue with that person, should I? Have I read the whole situation wrong? Where maybe it's your issue and you need to deal with it.
Line, isn't it?
It is. I tend to think of it too, that sometimes it's about, is the issue that I'm about to share something that's about a person's personality and their way of going about it, or is it a task, a problem that needs to be solved? And a problem shared is a problem halved. We hear that old adage, from when we were kids. if it's something that is a task that we need more heads to think about, then great, share it and be vulnerable about, I don't have the answers. Be humble that you don't, you are stumped and you're looking that more heads will come in on this issue. But if it's more a conflict issue with the way someone does something rather than what they're doing,
then that doesn't need to be shared. Yeah, then it's actually just between those two people that have the issue.
Because I think then you're actually, you're not edifying the leadership that you're working with, and you're talking about people's behaviour rather than what is it that we're here to do, what's the task at hand. So that was a really interesting one, that sort of tension between humility and vulnerability and holding your own stuff to yourself.
And I think sometimes for women that can be a big issue when they're in leadership roles, and how they don't want to be perceived as being too harsh. They want to have that softness around them. Whereas for the male personalities, it's easier for them because males put everything into boxes, right? And women we're still trying to be a little bit of, we want to be harsh, but we also want to be soft.
I think we value the connections that we have with the people that we're working with in a different way. And so it's not to categorize people, but it's to say that connection is so important that sometimes we'll soften what we're the direct. We need to be direct as leaders.
Way. I mean, to soften things, especially depending on who you are speaking to, who you are dealing with, because then you can really, you can speak to that person's personality, or it's just the way you say things. You can say the same thing, but to two or three different people in different ways. And if you know their personality types as well, what they are like, then that's easier, because we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And it all comes down to the culture of the business as well.
Yes.
Or the organization. And
I was thinking too, we're talking about delivering a message to people in a way that is palatable for them. I love the expression, keep your words soft, because you may have to eat them.
You don't want to eat something hard, do you? Words are so powerful. And sometimes we just blurt things out and then regret it instantaneously because we said the wrong thing, and then and you can't take it back.
Yeah. And you can go and try and seek forgiveness, but it's it's tough. So what some of the other things are around communication as leaders. Good leaders communicate well. They're good listeners, so they listen first and then they seek to clarify, and they have a level of self-awareness that allows them to not jump in and react, but rather to wait and listen and respond. And I think that's really quite powerful. I loved this one. They have a learning agility. So they can, and if we hear the word pivot one more time, we're all going to go and stand in a corner and scream. But last year, the year of pivot, but it is that ability to be on a task, but also learning something through doing that task. So that is a very self-aware person that can be observing what they're doing while they're doing it.
Yeah.
Really. So leaders have that ability to be agile and not be.
I think leaders, a good, effective leader is also one that is willing to learn from others, to be guided as well. So leaders should be willing to be led.
Yes. Well, you can't lead well unless you've been led and experienced the highs and lows of that. This is often how we learn to be leaders. We look at others who are leading us and we go, I like that. I'm not so fond of that. I don't think I'll do that to my people. It's
and you can tell, I think, when you see a leader that has no connection with what's happening around him or her. It's the ones that have gone in maybe from this level, you know, whereas others that have worked their way up to that level is different, and to the ones that step, because they don't have that background. I mean, it's not always possible to have the nitty-gritty background, but the ones that have come in sort of at a different level, they have more understanding. So if you have someone that comes in at the top level, it's a very good trait to have too, that they can go down a little bit and just observe, maybe try certain things out. You can't be an expert at everything, but you can at least have an understanding of it, or get those people that are experts in their field to maybe just, you know, brief with you a little bit.
Yeah, to teach you, to be teachable, really, isn't it? Teachable. And to have empathy for people. Yeah. So that really speaks to one of the other things that was written there, which is reading, the ability to read others and read the room, actually feel the vibe, for want of a better word, in the room. Leaders also are grateful people. So I thought that was a really interesting comment, that they notice things and they take the time to be grateful, and actually go back and express to someone who's done a good job, see, you did a really good job. You know, they're not so driven that they don't have time to reflect.
I think that is so important, isn't it, to show their gratitude, because people that are working under that leader, they become very disgruntled if they don't feel the gratitude, if they don't get acknowledged.
Yeah. Well, they start to think they're just a cog in the wheel. They're not a human being. They're a robot, and they're only valued for their output. And nobody likes to work in that sort of setting, not for very long anyway. So very interesting comments. There's a lot more. I was quite interested in the that leaders encourage up-and-coming leaders. So I guess they're creating a legacy. They're thinking about their succession plan, and they're leading without fear or competition. So when they see someone rising who is really stepping in and being a leader themselves, they're encouraging that, and they're facilitating it, and they're actually celebrating it and applauding it, not getting bent out of shape or jealous or competitive in any way. They're actually seeing this is a natural progression, and this is a good thing that others are stepping up. So there were a few things that I thought might be fun to talk about tonight.
Very good. So do you have any specific women leaders that stand out for you? And it doesn't have to be someone that's, you know, really prominent, that's been featured in the media or featured wherever, that stands out for you, that inspired you?
Well, I do actually. My first ever boss, when I first graduated from university and got my first job as an occupational therapist, I worked for a woman who it was a great first job, like watching her lead a team. And I was in a rehab hospital. There was probably, it might have been 15 or 20 of us in the team within the occupational therapy department. So she was leading a relatively sizable team. And she knew her people. You know, she cared. So I was a new grad, and, you know, you're sort of finding your way in the world. And I remember having a conversation with her at one time, and she said, "So are you sleeping well?" And I said, "Oh, sometimes I'm thinking about my clients in the middle of the night and you know, worried that maybe they'd be getting a better service if they had a different therapist who had more experience." And she just gave me some tips and hints and said, "That's really noble that you care, but if you don't look after yourself, eventually you won't be able to care for anyone, because you'll go under." And so, she was a leader who took time to listen, and she was leading a few of us. We would have, when I first started in the job, you know, weekly sometimes bi-weekly catch-ups, and then even I stayed there for a number of years and rotated through different parts of the job, but right through she would still touch base on a regular basis. There was no sense of, well, you're okay, I'll just leave you to it. There was always a set up every time we met.
Yeah.
We would get our diaries out and we would put the next meeting into the diary.
Mm.
So you didn't feel, and I've had other leaders that I've worked under, that you felt like you were chasing them the whole time. You needed 5 minutes, but they were always too busy.
Yeah.
So you never felt like you could actually finish a conversation. They were always thinking about the next task or, I've got to go to a meeting. So you never felt like they were actually making eye contact and listening.
Oh,
so
that's really bad, isn't it?
Whereas that leader, that first boss I ever had, when you were in her office, the door got shut and you had her full attention. So I learned a lot from her. She's very inspiring. Yeah,
that's really good. And did you take anything away from her that you actually do now?
I think that pay attention. Give people your full attention, or if you cannot, if there's something pressing, be honest enough to say, look, I can't give this my full attention right now because there's something that's come up that's quite urgent that I need to deal with. And so, but I will come back to you and make sure you do. And that's the integrity piece. Say what you mean and then mean what you say and actually follow through. So, it's about being your word in the sense that count the cost before you commit. So if you say I will be at something, it's not a case of on the day deciding whether you feel like it. If you've said you're going to do something, you'll do it. But so many people say it before they really think, well, can I? Is this something I can? Have I counted the cost, or have I just said yes because I wanted to please someone, and then come the crunch, I can't follow through. So so she was a great example. What about you? Have you got a leader that has inspired you?
Yes, when I grew up, I was part of the Girls Brigade, which is equivalent to the Scouts, I think. The Scouts are girls and boys. However, obviously the girls
Brigade.
There was a girls' brigade and a boys' brigade. So when I grew up, we had the two separate groups. We did do things together, but mainly, and this woman, and she's still around. In fact, she was one of the authors in the Book of Inspiration, and she's 87, should be turning 87 this year. And she was the leader, so the captain, and she taught the girls so much, and I basically grew up in that, and just from leadership, and we did lots of different things. And what they teach the kids now in school is what she already did years ago. And she was just on the go all the time, doing things, organizing things, but also making sure that she brings leaders. She teaches the girls to become leaders as well. And she's not as active in that and she used to be internationally active as well. So she was captain, and then she was, president of the international thing. And so she's really grown up into that. And she inspired me, and she still inspires me now because, she does so much, and she's so knowledgeable, and her faith was so strong. Yeah, her faith has always been strong.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it's always good to have that role model, someone to strive towards and hold in that. And especially with her being a woman, it's you can kind of correlate, and knowing that she did this all while she was working as a teacher and while she was a mom and a wife, and
wearing all those hats we do as women.
And she did it. There may have been some things that didn't possibly go so well, but she never shared that, and that's what we were talking about. She didn't have to share it with everyone.
It's that what's that saying, that you're like a duck on water, you look very serene on top, but underneath you're paddling like crazy. And I think
Yeah, and we all have times like that, and nobody knows that. I mean, it's a good thing that we can be like that, right? That everything is calm on the outside, because you don't want to stress people. You don't want it's not just on the outside, because you portray a certain calmness anyway. So if you weren't a calm person from the start, you're not going to be able to portray that calm.
No,
That's
no,
right.
that's right. That's
If you were
exactly
an anxious person, you would
written all over your face if you're an anxious person.
yeah. So, and I mean, that happens to me. Sometimes people would say to me, "Why are you so calm?" Or "You have this calming effect," or something. Or even if I just put my hands, or at work, when I sometimes hug people, or say, "Oh, this feels so good," and I'm thinking, huh?
Just a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't we all love a hug right now?
Wouldn't we all? Yes.
And I
Send
know people
virtual
are
hugs.
struggling with hugs right now, which is humans need that touch. So I
Mhm.
think we can. We've gone over again. We just can't do this under half an hour.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you would like to add? Would you like to give the news? I don't have to give the news, because we're working on something really special.
Yeah, we are.
So, yes, I'll let you do the honors, darling.
So on the Mornington Peninsula here in Melbourne, we are running an event, a luncheon for International Women's Day this year, 2021. And because International Women's Day actually is on the 8th of March, and that's a public holiday here in Victoria, we decided to give ourselves a week's grace, I think was what we decided, didn't we, Ruth? And we're going to have this luncheon on Monday, the 15th of March. It's at a beautiful venue overlooking the water at Safety Beach on the Mornington Peninsula, right on the beach. And so if you want to come and I guess spend some time networking with other people, hearing some very good speakers talking about gender parity. We'll be talking about looking after you, I guess, as a leader, from internally and externally, and there'll be businesses there talking about what they do. So it's going to be a great day, aside from a lovely lunch and I think a nice morning tea. I think I heard in the wind as well, and there'll be some door prizes, so a bit of pampering. And I think in Melbourne particularly, we all could do with a little bit of pampering after the year we've just had. So this will be a great celebration. So that's Monday the 15th of March from 10 till 2, and there will be, we'll put the link in on this Facebook post for tickets. We're offering some opportunities to businesses who would like to promote and raise their profile on the day to be involved as sponsors, which will mean that we can offer tickets to people who perhaps don't have quite the means to pay for a ticket themselves, and to help us create a really memorable event. So we're really excited about the plans that are coming together, and the caterers lined up. We've got some gift bags that are in the wind.
We've got our speakers. We can talk about our speakers. We have
Yes.
one of the speakers. We're going to have a panel as well. One of our speakers is Blaise Van Heck. She's a publisher from Busybird Publishing. She'll be talking about her journey with the Camino. Camino, yep.
Camino de Santiago, yes.
The Camino de Santiago.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have a local MP, Antonella Chali. She'll be speaking, and we have Young Living essential oils, wellness and essential oils, and we have Secret, which is a health product as well, health and well-being. So they'll be displaying their wares. And yeah, I'm very excited. And we're going to have the event is actually open to men and to women.
Yes.
Okay? It's not just for women. So if you're a man, if you're a gentleman, please feel free to come along, and don't think that you'll be left out or not. You'll be in the minority. It's fine to come along.
Yep.
I'd love to have you there, because it's a conversation and the celebration is for everyone, not just for women celebrating on our own. And we work together in partnership. So men and women are a total partnership.
Yeah.
So feel free to come and join us. I'll pop the link into the chat box, and if you want to know anything further, if you want to be a part of it in any way, then please let us know. Okay, so thanks, Andrea, for sharing our good news. It was lovely chatting to you about leadership, and you're a true leader, and I'm grateful for you to be around you, for you to call you my friend. And I hope that we'll be able to do a lot of different things together.
I'm sure we will, Ruth. Yeah.
You inspire me. You've been through a lot and you've come out of it, and you've been doing amazing. So thank you so much for that. So we're going to sign off now, wherever you are. If you've been watching, or if you're watching the replay, I hope you enjoy it. And please let us know your thoughts on leadership and who's inspired you. And if you need any help, if you need to reach out and have a chat about anything that that comes up for you, please reach out to Andrea or me, and we'll set up a conversation with you. So this has been this Saturday Night Live with Inspired Woman TV, and my name is Ruth Stuettgen. I'm the host and producer, and we've been chatting together with Andrea Donaldson. Have a great evening, and we'll speak to you soon. Join us for the next Saturday Live next week. Have a good night, sending lots of love. Stay well and stay healthy. Bye for now.